This is an interview recorded in Bradford back in 2013 with Richard Dunn recalling that night, the 24th of May 1976.
I was 31, to be quite truthful, and I was ready for it. Don't forget, I didn't start boxing until I was 20 years of age, so I never had all the stuffing knocked out of me of being a young child. I was a big lad when I started. I was 18 and a half stone, and I got down to 15 stone. I worked my socks off, and I worked hard to get to that position, and what a fabulous, fabulous night. You won't believe it. It was just brilliant. I tried to win, obviously, because that's what I'm there for. It would have been sensational if I had become heavyweight champion of the world. A kid from Yorkshire, scraggy ass, they did nothing, and all of a sudden he comes through and does that. It would have been great, but obviously I got a good hiding. I didn't get hurt, I just got a good hiding, and I enjoyed every minute of it. If you can enjoy getting a good hiding, I enjoyed it. It was fantastic.
What was Ali like during the build-up? By then, we were well versed in his taunts, his poetry, and all that he brought in terms of hype to the build-up to a fight. What was he like for that fight?
You know something, Mike? He never interfered at all with me. I trained, and then he trained after me. He had spies watching me, obviously, but he never insulted me. He never called me names. He never did anything. I don't know whether, whether it was because he liked me, or it was a new tactic. But whatever he did, it worked for him.
And there are all sorts of stories related to the fight. One of them is that you employed the services of a hypnotist called Romark in the build-up.
Have you ever met him? Oh my goodness. That was nothing to do with me. Take my word for it. I'm lying in bed one afternoon. Well, before the fight, which was at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I was trying to get some rest. And one of the daily papers, brought this, a donut, as far as I'm concerned. He come in, and I'm lying on the bed, and he said, I'm going to tell you a story. And when I finish the story, you'll be fast asleep. And when you wake up, you'll be this and you'll be that, and you'll go down and you'll fight for that, and you'll beat him and everything. Do you know what he told me? Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. Honest to God, I couldn't believe it. I closed my eyes and started breathing really heavy. And he stood up, he said, he's asleep now, leave him. And he'll wake up at so-and-so time, and it'll be right. And as soon as he went out the door, I opened my eyes, and I can't tell you what I said because it's rather rude. But I said, if he ever comes near me again, I said, like I hypnotise him, but it'll be with a left hook.
But it's almost typical of what would happen around a Muhammad Ali fight, that there are stories that you just couldn't believe unless you'd actually been there as you were.
It was extraordinary, because every time I went to train, he'd have 4 spies in the gym, and I'd be trying to train, and they'd be saying, I'm shouting out things, and you think, what the hell's going on here? And these were his spies that were doing that. And then, you'd get messages, he's going to do this and he's going to do that. And well, I'm the type of guy that don't take a blind bit of notice. I just plod on and get on with it, and that's what I did.
But how did you feel about your chances? Because you were well aware that nobody gave you a chance.
No one ever said that I'd win the British title, or the Commonwealth title, or the European title. The British press gave me zilch of a chance, and I won all 3. So why shouldn't I win the world title? I had just same chance as anybody else. The fight after mine, Ali lost to a man that had had 8 fights, professional fights. So it was there to be taken.
Leon Spinks.
That's right. It was there to be taken, and I never took it, and I should have done.
And in his previous fight, he'd fought Jimmy Young and not looked that good.
He looked awful. He was overweight, and I thought to myself, he's going to have to do extra training to get that lot off. It might take it out of him. This might be my chance. But it was the fight after, and it was terrible, the fight after. It was slow, and he had no coordination, and Spinks beat him. But that could have happened to me.
And on the night, as you walked towards the ring, you had that attitude in your mind, because if we look at the most recent British fighter to face Ali at that stage, it was Joe Bugner a year before, and his attitude was different. It seemed, from the outside at least, that he was bent on survival, whereas you didn't look at it like that.
Exactly, that's what Joe did. Joe fought 27 rounds with Ali, That's a lot of rounds in that. But he never got hurt because, like, I don't want to insult Joe because I like him, he's a nice guy, but I don't think he tried like he should have done. He was going to survive, and he did. Me, I wanted to win. I wanted to go out there and knock spots off him. I didn't, but I bloody tried.
And you had successes too, but then you got knocked down 3 times in the 4th round. Tell me about the story of the fight from your point of view.
Well, the first 3 rounds I thought I did okay. But then he must have picked up on something because he just changed his style a little bit. And the next minute, excuse the language, I'm on my arse. And, you know, well, I don't like that, so I got up, obviously, as fast as I could, and down I go again. I went down 3 times. I'm glad the ref didn't stop it in the 3rd round or the 4th round because I'd have been really upset. But the 5th round, Ali really opened up on me. But I still didn't want the ref to stop it.
How would you describe Ali? I mean, having been knocked down 5 times, was he a really hurtful puncher, or was it more about accuracy and volume?
I think you're right there. It was speed, accuracy and volume. It was very fast. And it was hurtful, you know what I mean, but not enough, you know, not enough to knock me out cold. You know what I mean, but it stung a bit.
And he said afterwards, graciously, that you were a lot better than he'd expected you to be.
Well, I tried a lot harder than I normally do. I really put my heart and soul into this one. I mean, it would have been great to bring the title home to England. Obviously, you know, that came second.
And there's the story about what Muhammad Ali did with the gloves afterwards, and there were messages inside. Can you tell us what is the true version of that?
He said he wrote a number 5 in his glove, and that's the round I were going to get stopped in. But on the other glove, we're round 3. So if he'd have had any more gloves, and you know, I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know, and I really didn't care, to be quite truthful.
How was Ali with you after the fight?
It was the same as he was before the fight. He was just a nice, friendly man. I got on really, really well with him, as you do. All we are is sportsmen. You know, I'm going to battle. And when the battle's finished, you're back to being pals again. And that's how I felt.
What about for you in the aftermath, Richard? Your career ended a year later. Was it a feeling of it won't get any better than that?
Well, it couldn't get any better than that, could it, to be quite truthful? You know, I'm fighting for the world title. You know, I'm against the greatest fighter in history. When that ends, I think you lose a bit of heart after that. You know, I had 2 fights, I lost them both. I think my heart had gone out of the game. You know what I mean? That was the pinnacle of my career, and it was fantastic. I got stuffed. There's not many people can say they've been in there with him.
And how should we remember the man that so many sports fans came to revere, but you actually shared the ring with him? Give us your thoughts on Muhammad Ali, the man and the boxer.
Wow, you're asking me a question there, because I mean, as a man, he's fantastic. As a sportsman, he's double fantastic. He was what they say he was, the greatest ever, and I was privileged. I earned it, mind, to fight him. And no matter what anyone says in history, Richard Dunn fought for the world title against the greatest fighter ever.
Wonderful memory, Steve, from Richard Dunn. Just a couple of points to make there. He said that Muhammad Ali fought Leon Spinks next. It wasn't next, actually. It was almost 2 years later before he lost to and then beat Leon Spinks in the rematch. But that was promoted, Steve, back then, 1976, by none other than Bob Arum, who we are still talking to this day about huge fights. And that was back in 1976. And Richard Dunn earned £100,000, which today equates to around £725,000. And he went on to fight Joe Bugner next time around and got smashed in a round.
Yeah, that was Joe Bugner's best performance, some would say, because him and Dunn, despite what Richard was saying there, they had a really fierce verbal rivalry. It went on for an awful long time, stoked, of course, by Richard's quite wonderful wife, Janet. And Joe got in the ring that night and took it all out on Richard, and then basically vanished off the face of the earth, which was quite bizarre. One or two things to pick up. I mean, you say one or two things to pick up on, Mike. I'd say dozens of things to pick up on. First and foremost, you're right. Richard Dunn can go forward and say, you know what? You can say what you like. I fought for the world heavyweight title and I went in with Muhammad Ali. That'll do me, and I'll tell you what, that'll do me. As for Romark, how long we got? Because Romark is absolutely genius. He was tabloid fodder. He once tried to drive across London, north to south, Mike. He got half a mile, blindfolded. He said he could steer the car without looking. He cracked.